Please welcome to the stage Mike Haley, Senior Vice President of Research at Autodesk.
They removed the podium. This is going to be an interpretive dance. Vilas will be giving you your money back if we do that, so I won't do that. I work at Autodesk. I run a research group at Autodesk, the research group at Autodesk, and one of the things we are always looking at is creativity. So today's talk is about creativity. Now, creativity, humans are fundamentally creative, and I think it's true that we could say to be creative is even to be human. There's such a connection to creativity. So this is going to be a common underlying theme. Now I want to talk about Leonardo da Vinci, prolific polymath. I mean, his ideas persist today, still incredible creator. But Leonardo existed at a very specific time in history when there was an abundance of time. People created things like these. They created cathedrals over centuries. They created frescoes over decades. When you are spending that amount of time creating something, you create things that are beautiful. You create things that persist. You create things that incorporate every aspect of human life that existed at those times. So what was that about? They had an abundance of time. Time was the thing that they had available. Since then, we've moved to a world where the notion of beauty or solving all the problems have been sort of sidelined. They've been put into this bucket. It's too costly. This is going to take too much time. We have a fast-paced world. We have to build things faster. So what do? We only focus on function. Function, function, function is the core of everything we create today. Yet, adjacent to that, we've got climate change, we've got mass urbanization, we've got electrification, we've got AI, we've got all these other things that are happening that they also have to respond to. So this era of having abundance of time is long gone right now, and we're seeing the consequences around us. This building is a beautiful building. There's many buildings, as I'm sure you've been in, that are not beautiful today, and this is why. So I'm going to postulate that there is a new future ahead of us, a future where, again, we can create an amazing experience, and some of us can watch that touch us, or you can hold a device that when you touch that device, you can feel the love the designer put into that device, or you can be in a harmonious space that just brings people together, that makes you feel creative and warm. And these things are going to come about because of an abundance of creativity. We're not bringing back an abundance of time, but what it means is today we don't get to spend enough time actually being creative. We spend so much time in the muck, if you want, trying to get things done. What's going to happen in the future is we're going to have way more time to actually really figure out what it is to be creative. So Vitruvian Man, also from Da Vinci, by the way, AI is really good at removing the naughty bits in the middle. So you can't use this. Just in case you're ever doing this, you can. It's pretty good. I'm going to use Vitruvian Man as the basis for let's explore this provocation that we're going to have more creativity. I'm going to do it through some examples. So the first one we're going to start with is the humble keyboard and the mouse. We're all used to this, but boy, what a terrible way of incorporating big ideas into a computer. I mean, you got what, 80, 90 something, somebody knows the number of keys, 101 keys, something like that, right? And a mouse that moves on a two-dimensional plane to take these big complex ideas about designing a building and put it into a computer. It's terrible. Architects start school learning how to draw. The minute they've done that, they never draw again in their lives because they use CAD programs. We make CAD programs, but that's what they use. But drawing is such a fundamental part. There's a fantastic book, Thinking from the Right Side of the Brain, if I remember correctly, which spoke about this, where they actually showed in an fMRI how people's brains light up much more holistically when they're sketching versus sitting at a keyboard. So why are we still doing this? We've gotten used to dumbing ourselves down to the level of computers. That is the fundamental way we operate in the world today. And my first postulation here is AI is bringing it up. AI is bringing software and computers up to a level that's meeting us where we are. So if we're creative, we can express ourselves more directly. The example I'm going to show you from our research lab is something called Project Bernini. Project Bernini is an AI model that generates 3D geometry from sketches, text, pictures, images, anything you want. And here's me designing a house. You can tell I'm a fairly accomplished architect. I drew that house over there, but instantly it is producing a 3D model within seconds. Now, that's obviously not a fully, completely done house, but the fact that I could get going with something in a matter of 3 seconds from sketching is pretty radical. I can keep adding on to that house, I can draw all sorts of things, and it's interpreting what I'm drawing. This is so easy. This is me sitting on my iPad with an Apple Pencil, just idly sketching on a weekend. I've seen amazing artists actually begin to use this that can sketch a lot better than me, that can produce incredible things instantly. So this is just an example of the kinds of tools we have ahead of us now. This is the beginning of an entire new era of interaction that is going to inspire creativity and make creativity available to more people. Now, interaction is one part of this, but let's think about actually solving a problem, because when you're solving a design problem, you're also solving something that's complex. You've got to think through multiple variables, interconnected systems, all of these kinds of things, and most problems in the world are like that. So now we've got our brain. Now the human brain, the trick is, if I give you all 20 numbers in a row and ask you to give them to me backwards, none of you can do that, because we can't remember 20 numbers in our head at the same time, right? We have massive limitations in our brain, right? Yet for a computer, that's an utterly trivial task. Make it 1 billion numbers for all you care, it can still do it, right? What we need to do is find ways to augment designers and complement their capabilities with computational abilities that help us solve very relevant, very pressing problems in the world. And AI can do this. So the example I'm going to show you is actually from my team. This is a site in West Oakland in the Bay Area. It's a site right next to the highway, as you can see, and it's been set aside for affordable housing. But the state wants to also make this a low-carbon site. They also want to build it cheaper, and they want to build it in half the time that they would typically build these things. So not too many constraints, right? What we did is we started working with a couple of partners to figure out how we could apply AI to this. And what we did is we built the first AI tool we did was a tool that could figure out all the possible ways to lay out the buildings in that piece of land. And you're looking at different balances of green spaces, orientations of the building. The software is also looking at noise, for example, from the highway, height of the buildings, accessibility, some materials, all of that kind of thing. And you can see all the different sort of balances in that radar chart. Then what we also went is we started working with a prefabricated module company. So this entire building, because you want to build it fast, you want to build it cheaply, prefabrication is probably the way to go. So then what we did is we went with this company that they figured that they could build things 40 to 50% faster and make them less expensive. That's on Mare Island up in Vallejo in the north of the Bay. So what we did is our AI was able to take these modules, and at every level of the module, the entire site, the building, the modules that would slot into the building, or even the components inside the module, it was able to look across all of those and gather all of these variables all at the same time. Now, this is exactly the kind of thing that typically a designer cannot do. Your brain cannot extend to all of those variables, but we could optimize across all of those. We could take the fundamental design objectives and explore that full space. So here you see it actually exploring out the different configurations of the modules into the different buildings. The colors represent different functions of types of rooms, 1-bedroom apartments, 2-bedroom apartments, kitchens, stairwells, these kinds of things. But what you can notice is on the right there, if you can see it, it's also computing things like embodied carbon, right? So it's optimizing the carbon inside this building. It's also optimizing the cost. So now you get a Pareto front that the designer can actually instantly understand the trade-offs of all of those variables that we've just talked about. So really, really successful effort. I'm very proud of this. Now, one of the things that came up, now remember I said we wanted to have a low carbon building. One of the things as we were analyzing the full chain of these typical kind of buildings, because the AI was fed on typical buildings, was that most of the carbon in prefabricated buildings is not in the prefabricated parts. It's in the facade that you put on afterwards, because guess what? The facade is made from concrete and steel. So we worked with another set of partners to design a new kind of facade. So we took hemp fibers and we combined hemp fibers with mycelium. We placed the mycelium into molds and let the mycelium grow and bind the hemp fibers. And they basically create what's essentially a mushroom brick. These are then compressed using a press, and they are, it turns out that once you've done this, these are incredibly resilient bricks. They even AA fire-rated bricks. So this picture is them actually being fire tested at 1,000 degrees in a kiln. They don't burn. They're very lightweight, and then what you can do is you can take these and pack them into another form, which is a carbon fiber kind of form that sort of protects, sort of weatherproofs them at the end of the day. And because they're so light, you can pack these into a much larger array. Typically, the panels are 4 by 10 feet. They're very heavy. They're actually quite dangerous on construction sites. A lot of construction people, unfortunately, get injured when the crane's swinging these things in. You can bring this huge panel, you can put it on the building right in the site and ship it to the actual installation. And that's what it's looking like. So this is now in phase 2 and is being built right now in Oakland. So I'm very proud of this project. The result, by the way, of those mycelium panels is most of these buildings are now going to, this entire building is actually a net negative carbon building. So, we've talked about simulating things like carbon. One of the hardest things to simulate is us, human beings. There's really no software out there that's particularly good at simulating human beings. You can do simple things like egress simulation, anatomical simulation, but actually simulating how humans function. And this is a key part of the design problem. If we're going to be truly creative and solve something, we have to solve it for people. It's got to work for people. So what I want to show you is a project that we've been exploring how we could train AIs on human behavior. And when I say human behavior, I mean fundamental response. I mean well-being at the true meaning of well-being, both your physical, mental, group, social sort of being. Right. So this started in Toronto. Any of you that have been to Toronto will know under the Gardiner Expressway, it was the main highway going through Toronto. There's an area called the Bentway. Typically, it was historically not a very desirable area. The city renovated it and turned it into this sort of public space. We worked with the city of Toronto to build these helmets that have cameras on them facing in and out and facing the user's face, also picking up audio, also picking up heart rate and galvanic response on the skin. And we record that as people walked around the spaces. And we did this for months, and we collected all sorts of information as to how did certain architectural decisions impact what people felt. Did people come together in certain behavior? How did they behave when they were in those spaces? What did it really do? And this gave us a whole bunch of AI data for AI, training data, right, that we could then start training AIs to understand human response. So we're working with a lot of labs right now to try and gather more and more of this data, because I'm on a mission here. I really want to try and create something that makes sure that when buildings are designed, they by default are designed for people. And what this has resulted in is some tools. This is a little video called Experiential Views that's showing some software that can measure some tranquility. There's 3 dimensions: tranquility, social, and explorative spaces. So it can understand, or inspirational spaces. It understands that when you move into a room, are you going to immediately feel like you can sit and talk to people in this room, or are you inspired to go and look around, or do you just feel calm in a room? And what is it about? And it can be anything from materials to the way light comes in, but the AI can actually start to incorporate all of that and start giving you a signal. And now you can imagine if you're an architect and you're just beginning to create something, having that signal right from the beginning is probably going to ensure you're going to build a better building, even if you don't have that much time, right? And this is why I'm saying to you, there's going to be an abundance of creativity. If Leonardo existed today, I have no doubt that he would leverage every single tool that is at his fingertips, including AI. Thank you very much.